Welcome back to All Sorts of Sports, everybody.
Why'd you put everybody on the end of it? You threw me off.
Well, cool. Everybody,
All
welcome.
sorts of sports.
But
Okay.
not for everybody.
Why?
For certain people.
For some
Certain groups shouldn't listen.
Some of you won't like us.
Yeah, they can still listen if they don't like us. I don't care.
I don't want that.
Nah.
If you don't
Nah.
like me, I got two words for you. Fuck you.
I thought you were gonna say suck it. All right, so
It's too
I
mainstream.
still remember that entire thing. The road dog Jesse James from Generation X, his entire spiel. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Generation X proudly brings to you it's WWE's Tag Team Champion of the World, the road dog Jesse James, the badass Billy Gunn, the new age outlaws. And if you ain't down with that, we got two words for you. Suck it! Yeah. I like
you know what? In like 5 years, K-Dot's gonna be on WWE.
And there's a video
On
of me. I
on
used to do a
Netflix.
crazy Stone Cold Steve Austin impersonation.
All right.
I can catch beers in one hand, do the flip, and just
So,
open.
guys, we have
Sports.
We got
let's
sports,
start with baseball
but
because
not for everybody.
we're gonna start with baseball. Story for baseball, and then after that, we're going straight NFL.
And speaking of things that aren't for everybody, baseball.
True. But the Angelos family, I think that that owned the Baltimore Orioles agreed to a $1.725 billion deal to two billionaire I think they were hedge fund managers, David Rubenstein and Mike Arroghetti.
That is correct. And minority stake member Grant Hill.
Oh, nice. Okay. So yeah. Kate, I know you said you hated the Orioles because of the Angelos family and
Here,
their
Peter Angelos.
yeah, and his like impact on baseball in DC. Do you
Yeah.
want to explain that to the people?
Well, I'd say that in a dark week for the city of Baltimore after the Ravens lost, only I predicted that. There are some good news in the sense that Peter Angelos is fucking leaving. Yeah, I hate that fucker. So like growing up in DC, Peter Angelos, because Baltimore in its fledgling population, constantly people leaving, all the factories and stuff closed in the 70s and 80s. He's been trying to hold on to the market share in this area for television rights and all kinds of things for the Orioles. So the reason that I didn't have a baseball team growing up as a kid growing up in DC is because every time the MLB would consider an expansion team in DC or a team moving to DC, Peter Angelos would do everything in his power to make sure that it got blocked. So I was up until I was in high school when the Nats came into town, I was a Yankees fan. And the reason I was a Yankees fan was because number one, the Yankees are an extremely easy team to follow and to get all the news there for. So they're very easy to follow. Number two, they were in the exact same division that the Orioles were in. So if they came to town, it was easy to run up to Baltimore and go see a game. So
and they shit on the O's for decades.
All the time. So like even as a kid, as much as everybody still rooted for Cal Ripken, there was always a part of me that hated Peter Angelos because I always wanted to have a ball team to root for, right? And I'm no longer a Yankees fan because I have the Nats, my hometown team guy. But the Angelos family, even till this day, all the TV rights as far as the Nationals and what's happened with Mid Atlantic Sports Network and everything else are still tied up in a bunch of bullshit. The Nats, and one of the reasons is they're tied to some real bullshit when it comes to their revenue, and even we have the learners trying to get rid of the team. One of the hardest things that any potential buyers has to deal with are how the television rights are so wrapped up in everything that the Orioles had. DC's television market is much, much larger than anything that Baltimore has to offer. So Peter Angelos has been a selfish fuck to try to maintain whatever sort of glory he can over or dominate the area. There's no reason why you're in Washington, D.C., and it should be much easier to watch an Orioles game than a Nats game. It's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, I think that doesn't that change this year though.
There was a benchmark that was it 2024. Yeah, I think there were some benchmarks that were supposed to change. I think this year, but as far as like being completely out of it or from under it, I don't think that will change unless you have new ownership that might be willing to relent just a bit.
I'm sure that's probably part of it.
Yeah.
Also, that
But-
explains the lack I mean, I was watching the Mets off-season moves, which haven't been fantastic, but I was really shocked with the run that the Orioles made, that they weren't really doing anything. I mean, obviously they have all the young talent, but they weren't making any like big splashy moves. And I was like, fuck, they need pitching. They need pitching so badly. And they haven't really done anything. And that's now I know why. You don't want to tie up a new owner or new ownership group to, some, $200 million 6-year deal on a pitcher or something. So
It's
that
also not
like,
the Orioles style, like ever, right?
Yeah,
To God.
and I wanted to bring that
well,
part up because
that's
they were
because
bottom 4 in payroll
yeah.
since 2019.
I mean, so is Tampa Bay, but they make the postseason every year. It's just a whole build from within. But the other side of that is you have to bring in some pieces. Right? You can't build entirely from within, especially because that pitching staff just sucks.
So they should have the money now, though, to do
Yeah,
stuff.
that.
But
I
they've
think it makes
always
them
had the money to do it. It's just the fact that like that's where you get
know what
into
I
the
mean.
ownership groups that are, and it's across all sports, the ones that are truly in there for the bottom line of their pockets.
Well, and
Right.
this makes them the third richest ball club ownership group.
And
Somehow.
I think the main person who purchased is a Baltimore native. So I'm assuming that he's a Baltimore fan, I would hope.
Mhm.
And
It's always
he
fun to
wants
get
to
fans.
spend for his team. Like, I mean, shit, if you were if you bought the Commanders, you would spend as much
Ruin
as you
everything.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd ruin
And
everything.
Ryan, same with you with either the Commanders or the Bills.
I
And
would
he with
not.
the Raiders.
I would not be able to handle that sort of pressure. From the outside looking
I'd
in, I could
crumble.
yell. Yeah, I would be like, I'm gonna get Albert Hainsworth.
I'd be Jim Irsay.
When you said that, that reminded me of Succession, when the brother was just sitting in the office relieving himself during the day because he was like, it's stressful.
I'm so stressed.
All right.
That would not be a good owner
Dan Snyder part 2.
team.
No,
I
no,
would
it's
not be Dan
gonna-
Snyder. No,
it's not gonna-
I said I'm Jim Irsay.
Oh yeah.
I'm talking about like beating off in your office.
He didn't. No, he did other things
Hmm.
more inappropriate than that.
That's
I'd say like if there's a level of, well, you're talking about Louis C.K.ing it. He was more Bill Cosby.
okay. All right. So we're gonna move on. Since we're discussing Baltimore, some other news just broke. Like a couple hours ago? Baltimore's defensive coordinator Mike McDonald has accepted to become the coach of the Seattle Seahawks.
It's pretty big.
Congrats to him. And Keem has been.
That's why he's not here.
Every time we mention that he's going to be on an interview,
He's in a room by himself right now, crying, and masturbating using his tears as lube.
It's called cranking.
Wow, that was graphic. All right, cool. So, what do you think about
It's like Bill Cosby,
Seattle?
sadder.
Bruh, stop bringing him up. How do you feel about this move for Seattle?
Genius.
Genius. Would you like to expand?
Genius. Because he's not in Washington.
Go ahead, K-Dot.
I like the move for Seattle. I like the move for Mike. Yeah, I mean, everybody knows that like he has been somebody that was on the top of my list, and we'll get to that topic in a second. But the idea is, if you look at what he's been able to do over the course of the season against any one of the quote unquote top offenses, he shut that shit down until Patty Mahomes got his hands on that football and did what he needed to do. Shout out to Justin Tucker. There's an element of like this dude is the hot candidate from the defensive side, right? Like he's supposed to be the way that he's being described as Deshaun McVay of defense. He does some things schematically, but the biggest thing for him is the way that he communicates defense to his players, like what it is to look out for in the most simplest of terms, so that they can execute at a high level. So it's a very, very good thing to have at a head coach, where one of the most important things you can have outside of leadership is communication skills, right? What it is that you do to have guys understand and implement what it is you're trying to teach them. So he's great in that realm. The only thing I would say as far as Seattle, the reason I think the Seattle pick makes the most sense to me is when you're looking across the landscape of all these young, hot upstart coordinators becoming head coaches, one of the most important aspects of being a head coach is what you do as far as building your staff and the rest of your coaching staff. And when you have a Mike Macdonald, who is not the only place he's been in the NFL is Baltimore. Outside of that, he's been in Michigan as far as the defense coordinator. Now, if you're looking at, okay, knowing that he was in those two spots, who can he pull from to be on his staff? Jim Harbaugh, which is who he coached under at Michigan, is now a head coach in LA. Jim Harbaugh is going after those same guys. And if you had to choose between Mike Macdonald and Jim Harbaugh, you're probably going to pick Jim Harbaugh over Mike Macdonald. Then if you're looking at Baltimore, all right, maybe he can pull some things out of Baltimore. Once again, Jim Harbaugh's GM is now Joe Hortis, who was my top GM candidate when I didn't think Adam Peters was available. And Joe Hortis was the Baltimore assistant GM. So, LA's moving really hard to try to get anybody they can off that Baltimore roster, right? And you have John Harbaugh in Baltimore trying to retain everybody that they possibly have. The Commanders are out there interviewing Anthony Weaver. There's an element of, okay, if you're Mike Macdonald, how are you going to put together a staff of the only place you've ever known is Baltimore, and everybody on the coaching staff is a hot commodity that everybody's trying to hold on to, right? So if that's the case, the thing that you look at with Seattle that they have that other teams don't, if you're Mike Macdonald, is Pete Carroll, who's still there within the organization. And Pete Carroll has been around the NFL a couple times. And beyond that, he's just been around the league so long, he has a large network. Okay, I call it the Rolodex, right? Is what can these dudes do as far as in the Rolodex? When they're in that interview and they ask you, well, who's your offensive defense coordinator? Who's this guy and that guy? Pete Carroll's the guy that can whip out that phone and be like, hey, I got some people I can call, right? Even former players that I could just call and they can get here. So I think if you're Seattle, the marriage of that could be something truly special. I know we were just talking about Peter Angelos and the Baltimore Orioles as far as that. Seattle's also a team that's kind of in flux as far as the ownership group, right? The Allen family are trying to offload the team. They're trying to sell them. So, when you see also McDonald signing up for a 6-year deal instead of the 5 years a lot of people get or the absorbed amount of money, 6 years meaning what they're basically letting them know is that even with an ownership flux, he's got some safety net that he'll be around for a while. So I think that as much as I would love to have him here in Washington, I think without Joe Hortiz there with him to also help pull as far as staffing from Baltimore, I think it's a better fit in Seattle than ever would be here in Washington.
All right. So I wouldn't say that he's guaranteed to be around for.
They're gonna have to pay him. It's security. I didn't say guarantee. It's security. It's out of security.
It's guaranteed money.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of Mike Macdonald going to the Seahawks, I know he was one of the top candidates for you, right?
Damn, they don't have anybody. I'm sorry. Going back to the Seahawks, their old coordinator's gone. Their D coordinator's gone. Their run game coordinator's gone. Quarterback's coach is gone. Yeah.
He has to build an entire staff, right? So when you're
girls for,
they still have Larry Izzo.
And that's if Pete Carroll can actually sit his ass in the office and be okay with the new role, right?
Or he might be the OC.
Or he might be Pat Riley. So the idea as far as what he's willing to do. I mean, Pat took a while, but then he's got Eric Spoelstra and he's able to sit his ass down and know I can do my job. He can do his. We'll win. There is that element to it. So, I mean, that's the only thing that I would say is any negative, but it's just, I think when people talk about these hiring a new head coaches, they really do not do a good enough job of thinking about how it is they put together the team.
Yeah. All right. We went back to the Seahawks, but we're moving on to the Commanders now because the Commanders are the only team that does not have a head coach at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you think is going to happen with this squad? Do you think you're getting Dan Quinn?
Oh, my bad.
I don't know. And I'm good with that. So, the thing with Washington right now is that the fan base is all up in uproar, right? Because, I mean, if you remember here in Washington, I've talked about Ron Rivera here on this pod, where the only reason Ron Rivera's head coached the Washington Commanders in the first place, the Washington football team, or they were the Redskins when he took over. The only reason he was head coach was no one else wanted the job. He was a hot commodity, but then he had to take an entire day hanging out with Joe Gibbs, eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner for Joe Gibbs to convince him to take the job, right? It's not a job that anybody wanted. And if you look even before that, when Jim Zorn got hired here in Washington, Jim Zorn was hired as the offensive coordinator first. They were looking for a head coach. Steve Spagnuolo is the one that they really wanted for head coach. Steve said, I'm going to go back to being defensive coordinator in New York or something. I'm good. And they had to then promote Jim Zorn because nobody else wanted the job. The only other guy that wanted the job was Jim Fassel, if you remember Jim Fassel. So I think Commanders fans are scared that after Ben Johnson pulled out, which as the team was on the plane headed to Detroit to go interview him and Aaron Glenn, they received a text message from Ben Johnson saying he was no longer interested in the job.
It said, "Nah, I'm good."
Pretty much. When that happened,
McDaniel's like,
but
I said McDaniel's like, go ahead.
it is McDaniel's like, yeah, with him resigning at, what was it, Indianapolis, with him resigning the job. So I think Commanders fans are just terrified. There's a bit of PTSD, post-traumatic Snyder disorder that's happening. In the sense of we still think that like all the worst is yet to come, or that nobody likes us or wants to be with us.
Sure.
But the thing is, anything you've heard as far as the Commanders being tied to Ben Johnson, the Commanders being tied to Mike McDonald, the Commanders being tied to anything, when you start really looking at where people are sourcing the information, it's not from anything true. It's basically articles that are being written by reporters when, if you read the articles, you're hearing there's a belief among league circles that X is going to happen, right?
Well,
but
that's not necessarily always just like just smoke. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you could tell like some stuff is just bullshit, but
yes, but what you can always usually tell when there's smoke is when you can look and see what it is they actually say.
People are high.
You'll read an article and say sources close to X, sources close to the team, my sources around Mitchell Rails or Josh Harris or Magic Johnson are saying. What's being used in every one of the articles or tweets is sources around the league believe that X is going to happen, which means Josh Harris and this ownership group have kept shit on lock. No one knows where the list is as far as who's number one, who's number.
Could it be possible that they currently also do not know?
There's a chance, but I don't buy it. And the reason I don't buy it is if you listen to the Adam Peters initial press conference when he came here, his number one thing that he said he was looking for when he came to a head coach was leadership. Now, when you say that, okay, leadership and communication was the two big things that he was looking for. When you think about leadership or that aspect of it, a lot of times you're looking for somebody that's proven that they have it. And what that usually means is not going to be an upstart coordinator that doesn't have head coaching experience. It's going to be somebody that has proven or shown or known amongst league circles as having it, right? So, like, the only person I look at as far as the list that I feel like we truly missed out on was Raheem Morris. And I think what Atlanta saw after, you see Atlanta, when who it is that they interviewed, they realized real quick, oh, we want this dude. And they hired him like real quick after the Bill Belichick thing. They were like, we're not fucking around. We don't want anybody else to like him as much as we like. Fucking just do it, right? I think there's a chance that they were holding out, trying to do their due diligence with interviewing Ben Johnson because they didn't get an opportunity to because they were still playing in the playoffs, right? Mm-hmm. And I think they might have missed out on him. There's also a chance that Ben Johnson and they might have really wanted Ben Johnson. And with Ben Johnson saying no, that might have thrown them for a loop. So now they're like, okay, what are we going to do? But I think people need to know is that when you're hiring the head coach, there's also a lot of other moves you have to make when it comes to filling that staff, right? So if they had a lot in mind and then that all changed, then they're going back to the drawing board, looking at contracts and what it is they could do here and there and this, that, and the other. But there's also right now in this particular case, because everybody else is hired, there's no real rush to get the head coach. I think the only other thing that you're looking at is like the only reason I say there's a rush to it is you want somebody in the building so you can start working, right? Yeah. So like the idea of like getting to start working before the Super Bowl, you don't want to interfere with Super Bowl week.
And you know what's going on right now?
What?
Senior Bowl.
Right. Which there's no coaches for the Commanders down at the Senior Bowl. It's our front office staff is down there. So there's that part of it. There's also the other thing, which is like all the top names right now are defensive guys. When you have the number 2 pick overall, there's an idea that you probably want to get an OC in here to know what it is you're going to do with the second pick. So yeah, time is of the essence, but I think it'll probably get done by the end of this week. Like if I had my pick on who it is that I like the most, it's Dan Quinn. I've been saying this on the other podcast for a while now, after Raheem became my number 1. There are a lot of different ways to skin a cat, right?
There aren't, but we'll let that go.
Reference. We're cool.
Let's say
you get it.
I hate NFL trends. I don't like them. I'm not a fan of when everybody thinks that this is the thing to do and everybody does it. I always think the NFL is kind of stupid in that way. Did you know that 8 out of the last 10 Super Bowl winning coaches are on their second head coaching job?
Checks out.
And you go back even further, right? So, like, when we're talking about like the young upstart offensive minded guy that comes in and that shit, there's only one really, and that's Sean McVay. But one, right? Like everybody else is either a quote unquote retread, which I fucking hate that word to a certain degree,
Like skinning.
or you have to look back further. But even when you look back further, what did you say?
I said kind of like skinning cats.
A little bit, a little bit. But there's just an element of like, I like a guy. The thing with Dan Quinn that I like is the same thing I like with Raheem Morris, which is that Rolodex is deep. He's been around. Outside of that, there's also, I like guys that have failed at certain things. Majority of the dudes that are the most successful at least failed a couple times, if not more than that in life, right? But it's what do you do and how did you learn from those failures? And Dan Quinn, there are tons of stories that after he got fired in Atlanta, he was on the phone with a bunch of former coaches, a bunch of former players asking, what did I do wrong? Or what went wrong? And you don't get that a lot from people. And the thing is, like, Dan Quinn overall, as far as liked in the league, I was trying to pull up a tweet that I saw. So the NFLPA does that survey every year with the Players Association. They did a list of the top 5 defensive coordinators in the league, and they also did a list of the top 5 offensive coordinators in the league. And I want you to really listen to this list and tell me what you see if you notice anything. The top 5 defense coordinator according to the NFLPA survey: Aaron Glenn, Steve Wilkes, Dan Quinn, Brian Flores, and Raheem Morris. The offensive guys: Frank Smith, Thomas Brown, Brian Schottenheimer, Brian Callahan, Kellen Moore. Any one of those dudes one of the upshot hot commodity guys? These are all dudes that have been proven leaders and like motivators of men, right? Like these are dudes that people want to go play for. And when you have a Washington team that for so long nobody wants to fucking be here, I'd like somebody that can motivate the fucking men here. I'd like somebody that people around the league go say, I want to go play for that motherfucker right there. I like that. That to me is what is awesome.
I'm curious as to your thoughts on why they're not even considering Vrabel at this point.
So I think
if that's what they're looking for.
Or Belichick.
So there's a part of me that I did I say it on this pod or the other pod? I don't remember. But there's a part of me that believes, and it's the same thing that I don't think people are talking about when it comes to the Ben Johnson thing. If you're Belichick, if you're Vrabel, if you're Ben Johnson at this particular point, the thing with the Washington job is that I do think it's the best job opportunity in this cycle. I do. The cap space, the draft picks,
I'm thinking
all that stuff.
next cycle.
There you go. So like that's where I'm going. So like
okay.
But the thing with the Washington job is that even though you have all that in the blank slate, guess what it is? A lot of fucking work. And you're going to probably suck next year. There's a good chance you're not going to win 5 games next year, regardless of whatever happens, just because of so much that needs to be rebuilt, right? But so the idea is you got to be in it for the long haul. You got to have a long-term fucking plan. And there's a good chance that people might not look at you the same, or if the ownership group doesn't trust you, because nobody has any history with this ownership group, right? If this ownership group ends up being more David Tepper-like, you could be out on your ass with a losing fucking team a year or 2 from now, being like, well, I was the hot shit. I was Brandon Staley, right? So like you could be that guy. Or you could wait until next year, where Buffalo, Dallas, Philadelphia, any one of those teams fuck up, the coaches are gone. Mike McCarthy's pre-fired.
That's where Belichick's going.
Andy Reid could walk away. Like
he might retire this year.
so the idea, if you're one of those dudes and you look at the Washington gig, you're like, all right, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of things I could do. It's not a guarantee. But if I go to Philadelphia, that roster's pretty much built and they were playing in the Super Bowl. Dallas, I mean, that's fucking that. Why wouldn't you wait?
Or you can Dan Campbell it, right? You come in, win 1 game, and then end up in the conference championship 2 years later.
Once again, the hard work and dudes that aren't afraid of it. So, like, I look at Ben Johnson and I'm like, this might be the best move for Ben Johnson. I'm glad he's out. Because if he was somebody that did something like that, I'm not saying anything personally against him. I want somebody that's all in and excited to do the job, do the work.
I mean, they want to run that back, Turbo.
There's also the element of just that. I mean, this is the second cycle in a row he's done this, right? So like there is maybe not to this egregiously fucking text message while the guy's already on the plane. That's
Well,
fucking crazy.
You can't call from the plane.
Private planes. Call whatever, do whatever the fuck you want to, bro.
You
You've never made a cell phone call from your plane?
No.
You have one.
He knew what time the flight was. You could have did it before they got on the fucking plane.
Or just go through
No,
the interview.
The time difference. There's like a central time.
Nah, that was bullshit.
Yeah,
It was bullshit, man.
Speaking of bullshit, let's transition into
bullshit.
Ravens versus the Chiefs game. Team's not here,
Mm-hmm.
so you both have free reign to kick them back in.
I need to kick them back in. I want to kick all your back ends in. Who's the only one to pick the Chiefs?
Say everything that's on your mind in regards to the Ravens right now.
Lamar.
Don't talk about our picks. Talk about the Ravens.
Lamar
No, I'm talking about your picks. Go ahead.
Lamar is just black Josh Allen.
I saw that tweet and
I was watching the game, and I guess I hadn't watched enough Ravens games this year. But I was like, holy shit, he's trying to do too much, and it's backfiring. And you can see that he's getting more and more emotional. He's like, I got to win this game. And I was like, this is not going to work. And sure enough, it did not work. I really thought this was their year. But damn, he's still so young. What is he, 26, 25?
Yeah, he's young.
Yeah, he's got so much more time. But there was just, from a quarterback with that much skill to make some of those mistakes, and that much speed. And don't get me wrong, the Chiefs defense played a hell of a game. But just because Ryan has tons of money on likely to score a touchdown does not mean you have to throw it into triple coverage. Yeah, it's just some of the most egregious errors that I've seen. It's reminded me of this other guy that I watch every week. His name is Josh Allen. Yeah, bummer for that. Do you think the Angelos had to sell this week to keep Baltimore from burning, or just timing? It was just
timing.
The timing had to. Yeah, okay, all right. Okay. I had a thought. I was like, the Angelos are like, fuck, we got to get out of here. But anyway, I mean, I wasn't going to be angry with any of these matchups, to be honest. I had matchups I wanted to see in the Super Bowl, but any combination of those four teams would have been fun. I hate the Chiefs, so.
Don't we all?
Sad.
You can go next if you want to shit on the Ravens. I ain't doing that.
No, I'm not going to shit on the Ravens.
I didn't shit on the Ravens.
There was a...
Shit on Raven. Shit on Raven.
The Raven.
There was a video that came out, an audio clip of OBJ talking to Lamar Jackson during the game, which kind of gave me some pause where I was like, the fuck happened?
I haven't seen this. What happened?
Oh, all right. So OBJ is like on the sideline talking to Lamar, saying like, hey, like shit gets different when you're running. Like, be you. Go out there and do what you need. Like, do what you do. And in saying that, it kind of made me feel like they made a concerted effort to like tell him to stay in the pocket and just throw.
Well, that's because the whole week, everybody was saying the Chiefs are going to try to contain the run. They're going to try and contain the run. And he stood in the pocket and got the fucking ball knocked out of his hands when he's got wheels of steel and he could fucking be 30 yards down.
That is something I've never heard before. Wheels of steel.
Yeah, it's like blades of steel.
Yeah, I've heard wheels of steel, just not for him.
I've never heard that.
He could have been 30 yards. That one where it was what, 4th and 3, and he almost broke it for a touchdown while they had everybody in the box. Yeah, and there were so mmany plays where I was like, he's staying in the pocket too long. He's staying in the pocket too long. Just get out there and run, pick up 5, pick up 7, do what you do. And he wasn't doing it. And every time he did do it, he would get like 20 yards. But I heard the narrative all week. Oh, they're going to stack the box. They're going to worry about his legs. They're not going to worry about his arm. He's way more accurate when he's running and throwing. When he stood in the pocket and tried to throw, he's sailing it on people. It was just, it may have been bad game planning. I don't know.
Yeah, and the fact that they were able to move the ball like when they were running, but they only ran it what 6 times.
Well,
Like
that's because they were
that's kind
afraid
of
of them loading the box. If you watch the Chiefs all year, you can fucking run on them.
yeah,
That's something you can't do.
and they
Don't
did
throw,
not do it for
you do not throw it over the
reason.
middle. You don't throw it over the middle, and they were doing that shit all the time.
They had 16 carries, including 8 by Lamar.
They have Gus Bus. Like, what are you doing? He's
Yeah.
900 pounds.
3 carries, 20 yards. His longest was 15, though. So,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They could have run.
And that happened early in the game.
well, I think we'll talk about the other game, but I think the thing that you saw, like San Francisco, and Greg Olson made it a point to say this on the telecast, was like, it doesn't matter if Christian McCaffrey's only getting 2 yards of carry; they're going to keep running it. Why? Because they'll break one.
Mhm.
And guess what he did?
Broke one. No, all right.
Oh, and shout out Greg Olson. We'll miss you.
Couple things. Number one, the plan for Baltimore in this game and getting away from the run, that's the thing that makes them special. It was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's something you stick with regardless. This game was never completely out of hand where you couldn't continue doing it, right?
Huh.
So like I don't understand that at all. Maybe they would have been better served keeping Greg Roman. Like, I don't know. But the idea that it was bad. Zay Flowers also coming completely apart by the end of the fucking game. But that's the thing, is like you see
he's fine.
But you see it from before the game. I made the Justin Tucker joke even earlier, but that's not something you do if you're a team that knows you've been there before. Act like you've been there before. Everybody's heard that, right?
He's done that before, though.
I know, but
every three at least.
I get it, but the thing is that you start noticing when it comes to certain dudes, like when Bill Belichick has his team playing in the playoffs, you don't give your other team any bulletin board material, because they'll use everything they have to go out there and crush it. And when you put in your crosshairs Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, arguably the two best that have ever played in their respective positions, you want to give those guys fuel? That's a good idea. Like, act like you've been there before. Like, this is playoff fucking football, right? And when I saw one team and the other team, I saw one team that's like, this is why I don't doubt these guys. This is why you don't pick against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, right? Like, hey, spoiler alert, I'm not picking against him in the Super Bowl because I won't pick against Patrick Mahomes. Like, this is just what it is. Like,
Wait.
Even when you come over the second half where they didn't score any fucking points.
You know, Brock Purdy?
He's a... See, the thing is, here's the thing. This is the thing that we've been having all these debates, right? About like who next in line is. At certain points in the season, people were saying Josh Allen, right? Certain points in the season is Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, they're usually going at it. Every once in a while, some idiot will say Tua Tagovailoa for some fucking reason. Some other people will say Joe Burrow. Here's what I know. It doesn't fucking matter. First place and second place, there's a chasm the size of the Grand fucking Canyon. Because there's a god playing for Kansas City. He's a fucking god. He's the... one of us picked the game right, Ryan. It's because we understand there's a god playing in Kansas City. And you might hate it. You might be annoyed by Taylor Swift. You might be annoyed by Travis Kelce. You might be annoyed by all the fucking
There's no might
commercials
about it. We all are.
I'm not at all. I think it's fucking ridiculous.
Because I feel so good I picked it correctly.
No, it's not that. It's just, it doesn't matter. There's one guy. There's a guy.
He's still got to do it one more week.
And the other dude that I kept bringing up all year, when everybody talks about his wide receivers being an issue, and what I say, this is the best defense he's ever played with. And they held Baltimore in check.
Baltimore held themselves.
I think Baltimore held themselves in check a little bit.
You can say that, but what Chris Jones and those dudes were doing defensively was a damn good job.
Yeah, no, they did. But they were also up against somebody shooting themselves in the foot. You should win the race.
Yeah, but we literally, like, we talk about Lamar Jackson being this entity, right? Zay Flowers is a dude. Mark Andrews is awesome. Isaiah Likely is cool as shit, especially in a tandem with Mark Andrews, right? They got dudes. They did nothing. Nothing. You give credit where credit's fucking due. You have to.
Look,
and Isaiah Pacheco,
He
K-Dot.
sucks.
K-Dot.
Sucks. He
K-Dot.
won't be in the league in like a year, but
No, he will be. The K.
Pacheco, he
Yeah, but
won't.
Listen,
one thing. One thing about Pacheco, right? Here's the difference. Pacheco had 4 carries for 68 yards, averaging 2.8 a carry.
Sucks.
They never got away from it.
Yeah.
exactly.
Why?
That is kind of my point.
Yeah.
The biggest indictment on this game as a whole is the fact that the Chiefs are not that good defending the run, and the Baltimore Ravens are good at running the ball. And one team said, all right, we're going to not do what we're good at here for some stupid reason. So the Chiefs do have a good defense, but they got helped by the team that they were playing against.
And they're about to play a team who runs the ball incredibly well. The Great White Hope.
They played.
That game is going to piss me off so much. The game is terrible.
I didn't even watch the end of the Lions game.
The Chiefs are going to practice in our building.
In our building? You've been there for a year. You're renting.
No, fuck you. We have a building that's actually okay.
But like,
okay.
I think.
Look, listen. You've been in your building for a minute. You snow you shovel it. Like you go out there, do all that shit. That's cool. Our building's better.
And here the point that I
leaks, but that's fine.
It doesn't leak.
The point that I wanted to make as far as the when people say that like people can run against the Kansas City Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
Look at the games in which you run against the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, you can. They clam up in the red zone. You're not scoring touchdowns, and if you look at the passing stats, they're fucking god awful. There was a team that tried to run against them. Buffalo. Buffalo had 182 yards against them. Still lost. Because what? Josh Allen did not throw for 200 yards. So like the at the end of the day, they'll let you do that if you want to do that, right? And once again, Baltimore would probably be better served running the ball. But I still don't think, regardless of whatever it is it did, the outcome was going to be any different.
So the blueprint of what I thought the Ravens were going to do is what happened on Christmas with the Chiefs. Zamir White, Zeus, had 145 yards. Aiden O'Connell had 62 yards passing.
Yeah,
but
that's not going to win a playoff game.
We won. No,
it's not going to win a playoff game.
They would have won.
It would not have won them a playoff game.
They would have won.
It would not have. Dude, you can say that all you fucking want to. There's a reason Kansas City's playing the Super Bowl. Yeah. And you're not going to say the reason Kansas City's playing the Super Bowl is because the Ravens are just idiots and they didn't. Like, I get it. Once again, they would have absolutely put themselves in a better position sticking to the run game. But that being said, I think there was a good portion of what Kansas City was doing was saying, okay, if you want to do that, do that. But when it comes to the red zone, it comes to this, that, and the other, you're not going to be able to score on us like you think you will. And the thing is that Ravens offense has been able to do whatever it is they want to all season long to most people, right? They didn't fucking in that game. They didn't. And it's a lot of what Kansas City was showing them. You talk about the Odell Beckham thing, which is I'm definitely going to watch it.
That part was.
But my thing is like when I hear that, what I hear is the defense is dictating to Lamar Jackson. It's not a conspiracy that they want to win the fucking game. Like it's not. Nobody's telling him in the playoffs, like, hey, we need you to do all this from the pocket. Nigga, win the game. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. And when the Bills did beat the Chiefs, we had.
You mean not in the playoffs?
28 carries for 118 yards, and then 90 yards on 5 screen passes to James Cook. Like, that's just beat him short. That's how you do it.
The most you could do is hope and pray if you're going to do the running game shit that and I think another thing was that how early Kansas City jumped out, right? So like Kansas City didn't do anything in the second half except run with Pacheco and the fucking walls, right? Because they didn't give a shit. But it was
like, a 1-score game the whole time.
But you remember, Baltimore scored quick after. But when Kansas City put up 2 fucking touchdowns quick, and like everybody was talking about, what are we talking about?
It was 7-0. Then they tied it up 7-7. Then in the second quarter, they scored a touchdown. Then they kicked a field goal.
I'm saying for the they had 14 points. I didn't. Sorry, not up by 14.
All right.
They had 14 points quicker than anybody's had against Baltimore a year. We were just talking about fucking Mike McDonald, right? Having the offense, the defense to shut down everybody. When they scored, when they scored that opening drive, you could hear a fucking pin drop in Baltimore.
And
They
then
were shocked.
guess what happened the second half?
Kansas City ran Pacheco into a wall every fucking play.
They got no points. Whole second half.
I mean, at Kansas City, I think they took their foot way off the throttle, though. Once again, Pacheco has 20-something carries, 2-point-something yards a carry. They knew what they were doing at that point.
All right, moving on. I don't care about that game.
All right.
I also don't care about this game.
No, I do. The 49ers and Lions. That's the other game. Obviously, the 49ers won.
You get?
Yeah. Got a work call.
No.
Yeah.
All right. So the 49ers are in the Super Bowl. Right.
That did happen, yes.
Yeah. A part of the I'm thinking about work shit now.
I know. They threw you
In regards to the game, people
The average fourth quarter profits.
people are pissed off at Dan Campbell for going for it multiple times when he could have had 3 points in the bag. And they ended up losing by what, 3?
Yeah. But what is shocking about that? We've watched him all season.
I know.
It's gonna change.
Like the first, before half, you're supposed to kick that to go up 3 scores. He didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Then in the fourth, he had another chance and to tie the game. He didn't do it again. And now they're going home.
Wait, they kicked a field goal right?
They did kick a field goal.
Oh, what was there was one where he was supposed to.
Yeah, but they were already up by 14, I think.
Right. And you're supposed to do that to go up 3 scores.
I mean, they were up 3 scores.
He did it.
They were up 24-7 at the half. By my math, which is horrible.
It's 3
Don't
scores.
get me wrong. That is 3 scores. Now 4 scores.
One time he went for it when he should have.
7 years.
Here's guess.
Twice.
Sweet. No.
Now, thank God of 4 scores, our forefathers would have been stoked.
That's
They
funny.
did it. Look. So what had happened was, well, the Lions just didn't play in the second half. They were not there. I'll tell you who was there. San Francisco was there. And Brock Purdy managed the shit out of that game.
Rocked and Purdy, baby. Rocked and Purdy.
And Debo looked a little healthy. I don't think anybody can say Debo didn't look healthy. Christian McCaffrey was 2 yards, 2 yards, 2 yards, 2 yards, 70 yards. Look, they are who we thought they were, right? They didn't get away from their game plan. The defense stepped up and they won the game. Talking about playoffs? 4 scored in 7 years. Look, I much prefer to see Niners Chiefs than Lions Chiefs.
I would love to see the Lions Chiefs.
I think that game would have ended very, very poorly for Mr. Campbell. I think that the Niners are better equipped to have a competitive game against the Chiefs. Damn, that they'll be right back here next year. The Lions are really good.
Yeah, their cap situation not great.
It's not great, but I'm sure there will be some restructuring going on. There'll be a little moving and shaking. Gibbs
the offense coordinator's coming back.
I think you could, if Dan Campbell, if who's goddamn, what's his name? Josh? No. Who's
Ben
offensive
Johnson?
coordinator?
Ben Johnson.
John, Ben, Mike. It's all just.
It is a boring fucking name.
Mike. It's a lot of Mikes.
Ben Johnson sounds like a shitty alias.
Benjamin. I'm sure he's got a cool middle name, but I'm sure it's Benjamin.
You know what sucks? He's guaranteed to be on a no-fly list because of how prevalent that name is. Like, it's fucking nuts.
Wait, I wonder what his middle name is. That being said, you can kind of see that with him staying.
Daniel.
I think they're gonna. It's Daniel.
No, I'm just guessing.
Oh god.
There's some really boring.
It kind of seems like they're all kind of buying into running
David
back. It's David.
Benjamin David Johnson.
Oh god.
Typed in Johnson, and then the English playwright and poet popped up.
There might be the same person. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, I just the Lions shit the bed. I'm not totally blaming it on coaching because clearly they were coached up because they went up 3 scores in the first half. There was just what is it when you're sleeping and you shit yourself? They shit the bed.
About to say I never had that happen.
All right. Well, this is another game.
Sometime at some point in your life, you
This is
definitely.
another game that I'm the only one that picked correctly. The other aspect of this one is that one of his last 2 weeks in a row, I haven't missed, motherfuckers. No misses.
Did you bet on it?
Yeah,
Yeah. Fuck yeah. I'm feeling good. Hey, the movie posters and shit. I got a new look. Like,
Did you win?
yeah. Hey,
Right.
the Super Bowl matchup too. I'm good.
That's the only thing that matters.
Yeah, man, I made some good money. Basketball took it all, but I'm making some good money.
My biggest bet was I did the squares for 1 quarter to end 7-7. I was like, they're both scoring 7 in the first quarter.
Look, I've been saying all season long, the lines are legit, which Keem wasn't. He had to admit, remember last week that he was wrong, finally. But then the other thing was that Dan Campbell was going to do something.
Yeah, and then he's like, oh, they ain't this, they ain't Baltimore, they ain't this. Where you at, Keem? With your bitch ass. Sorry, I had to get that out. We're good.
All right, once again, y'all all picked wrong, so stop fucking doing that. Bottom line.
No.
I'm just saying, you're not too far.
Talked a lot when you were wrong.
Huh? Me?
What's your
Yeah.
bottom line?
It's been a while since I've been wrong.
What's your bottom line? This is one of those, to make a long story short.
No,
The story is already really fucking long.
No, I think that the examples that you gave, you're missing one glaring one as far as the Dan Campbell decisions. The timeout situation at the end of the game was egregious. The run.
I stopped watching after the comeback started because
you take 4 shots in the end zone. You throw the ball out of the back of the fucking end zone. You do not run and get stuffed with Dave Montgomery and have to burn a timeout. There was no reason they had to kick the onside kick. They should have absolutely had another opportunity to go do this. That to me was the most egregious thing that I saw in that exchange. There was an element of, all right, well, we get Jared Gossman, the dude that we love. Amon-Ra St. Brown's the dude that we love. Sam Laporta looks like the best fucking tight end outside of Travis Kelce in the league, right? Or George Kittle. But they ran the ball and had to burn a fucking timeout. It was ridiculous to me. Like, yeah, no, I didn't agree. But I haven't agreed with almost any of what Dan Campbell's been doing on these 4th down things. I know they talk about the analytics being right, and this. I listened to a dude break down the analytics of those calls for over an hour on a fucking podcast a few days ago. And the host of the podcast kept asking him, so does the analytics in this situation take into account momentum? Well, we don't think momentum exists. At least it's not something that's quantifiable, so it doesn't exist. And that to me is a fundamental disagreement that I think sports fans and the analytics guys will never be on the same page again. I believe in momentum. Do you guys believe in momentum?
Yes, I played.
That's
so.
That is, the Eagles are the perfect microcosm of how momentum will fuck you
from a scientific standpoint, right? And then the also thing that they don't take into account are the personnel in the situation at hand. They're just looking at the raw data and the numbers. What I decide to do on 4th and 1 is very different if Aaron Donald's across from me compared to some fucking scrub. It's different. What I do is
no scrubs.
If I have to run behind Trent Williams, it's very different than if I'm running behind Charles Leno. Like, it's just different. So, like,
don't disrespect him like that.
Sorry, I like Charles Leno, but Charles, you even know, bud. You're not Trent Williams. I could have named any tackle. Honestly,
Trent Williams' number.
So to me, there is.
Where was he before? I can't.
But the one thing I'll give Dan Campbell credit for, and this is the one thing you can't He's not on the fence.
Yeah, you know he's
it's coming. And I think the team it usually has momentum to do it, but there also goes back to what we were saying in the Chiefs game. Act like you've been there before. The
they
Niners
had been there. They had never been.
Right,
They had never been there.
Well, no, they got their 91 when the Redskins beat the fucking brakes off the bitch.
Right.
The only thing that pisses me off is the fact that this happened. That I think that game, that game should have been played in Detroit, but it wasn't because they fucked up at the end of the regular season. Doing the same exact shit.
Hey,
but here's the thing: if they don't do everything that they've been doing on fourth down throughout the course of the season, they're not here.
Yeah, they're not 12-5.
They're not. So there's an element of it. I get it. Trust me. Once again, I'm with you. I disagree. I would not have done what Dan Campbell's done. I would have not done majority of what Dan Campbell's done as far as those decisions.
I'm not even mad at him doing the other shit. It's just more so like, all right, you did that in the regular season. Now you have a chance to tie the game. Take it.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. I was screaming at the TV. What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? That being said, that's just who he is. And the team knows. They don't second guess it. To me, if you're going to be like that, though, everything else has to be damn near perfect as far as all these play call and design and shit, right? I was watching, you guys ever see the movie Silver Linings Playbook?
Yes, many times.
So I was watching it the other night for some fucking reason, and it was something that I haven't watched in forever. The entire course of the movie takes place over the 2008 Philadelphia Eagles season, right? And I was having this conversation with somebody about head coaches and retreads and all kinds of stuff. Do you remember what Philadelphia thought?
Retreads.
I don't either. But do you know do you remember before Andy Reid went to Kansas City what his brand was at the end of his run in Philadelphia? Do you remember? Not that. Do you remember what he was known for?
Choking in the playoffs.
Choking in the playoffs, and the worst game managing clock guy maybe in the history of football.
Didn't he hire a clock guy and that didn't help?
Well, in Kansas City, he has a clock guy who basically he just tells him to call a timeout, do this, do that. He doesn't even think about it anymore because he knows he can't do it. Right? He just knows he's not capable.
His mustache is so frozen. How are you supposed to read a watch?
But once again, that's what it's all about. Like when you talk about coaches, have they learned from their mistakes, right? But Andy Reid was the worst in the league at that. And that was his brand. That Philadelphia fans wanted him at his head on a spike by the end of this fucking thing. So they ended up with Chip Kelly and shit. But Dan Campbell is who he is. Unapologetically, it makes him a damn good coach in a lot of fucking ways. But you do not run it and waste a timeout if you're going to be the go forward and fourth down guy. Everything else needs to be correct.
I think they will make some adjustments in the offseason in terms of maybe getting a clock management guy.
And lose a bunch of offensive guys. And Josh Reynolds. Tisk, bud. Tisk.
Tits, man. Jameson Williams, though.
So,
tits.
Final thoughts, guys. Where are we at? Who wants to go first?
I think I watched the first 2 episodes of Masters of the Air.
Oh, how is that?
I think they're doing a good job.
Cast is sick.
No, it's awesome. It's Elvis is Buck.
Awesome Butler.
And then his buddy is Bucky. I think the issue is because every time I've watched The Pacific or Band of Brothers, I do back to back. I've watched the whole thing. I have never had to watch one episode at a time. In thinking back, some of those episodes are a bit slow. The first one is a little, they're building character development, plot development. I think I'm gonna have to wait a couple weeks and then binge, because I think it might be a little slow for me. But so far, it's visually amazing. Plot seems amazing. I'm an airplane guy. Love airplanes. It's growing on me. But I do think if you're like me, you may need to wait until there's like 5 or 6 episodes to really get into it. So
okay,
but overall, pretty good.
How about you, K-Dot?
Enough. Thank you, K. Dot. James.
No, I have
Yeah,
not.
I got none.
Me neither. All right. So
Oh yeah, you know what? It's been a really rough time going to the movies recently. There's no good movies out. If anybody got a recommendation of something I should fucking see,
put it in the comments below. Like and subscribe.
we have none of them.
Okay.
Hit me up about Saturday.
Yes,
We'll do.
I will be around too. I'm doing like a FIFA tournament, so.
And if anybody watching wants to join, hit us one of sup. You know, drop a comment. I'll give you Ryan's address.
Yeah, come on through. I mean, my door's always open. There's a shotgun on the inside, but the door's always open.
All right. I see
Entrapment.
I'll see you next week when we're doing the Super Bowl preview.
Yep. Love y'all. Peace.
Patrick Mahomes.
Fuck you.